like wetting myself, to be honest, because I thought it was just shock from being shot in the leg. And but I caught up to Ezra and I said, you need to go get help. You need to go find someone to call 911. And he asked, Mom, what's happening? And I said, you just need to listen to me. You need to go ahead and have someone call 911.
He was rushed to the Theta Clark Medical Center and into emergency surgery. The children, Ezra and Selah, were taken to the hospital to be examined as well. A secure room at the hospital was arranged for Ezra and Selah to stay, while other family members were being contacted to take them into their care. Police gave them clean clothing to wear, and food and drinks. Aaron was not able to speak with police until 3 days after the incident, on May 6th. There were 2 Menasha Police Department officers who came to conduct the interview. Remarkably, she was able to recall many details, which helped corroborate other eyewitness statements. A witness had earlier seen Ezra trying to get inside the family's van after the shooting started. The witness went on to say that Ezra told them his dad and sister were shot and dead. He said it wasn't safe there and he really wanted to leave. The kind citizen took Ezra and Selah to the police and turned them over safely. Ezra was able to show investigators where his family was shot, and another officer built a rapport with the little boy, allowing him to gather even more information from the children. The boy explained that he and the family were walking to the bridge to go to the Fritz Park to play, but Ezra walked in front of the family because he wanted to look at the ducks under the bridge. He described hearing what sounded like fireworks, and at one point, the little boy thought he heard a missile flying and hitting the bridge. Several onlookers started to gather, gawking at the horrific scene, but also making the situation even more dangerous, given that the shooter still had not been caught or apprehended yet. As officers gathered witness statements at the scene, they began patting folks down just to be sure the shooter wasn't among them. Police discovered 4 victims who showed no signs of life. Of the 4, Aaron Stoffel was breathing, but was barely clinging to life. Paramedics rushed to move victims to a secure area. Police located shell casings at the scene, which indicated that the shooter was probably armed with a handgun, though they still had no idea who the shooter was, what he looked like, or what he was wearing.
It's still our belief that this was a completely random act.
The Winnebago County Sheriff's Department dive team was called in to search the water under the bridge for firearms and shell casings. Dispatch advised investigators that a severe storm was heading their way with strong winds, heavy rain, hail, lightning, and thunder. Because of the storm, large tents were brought in to protect evidence. However, the crime scene was too large to be covered, and the collection of property and evidence was expedited. There were a vast number of empty shell casings located on the bridge, along with personal property items such as sunglasses, cell phones, and purses. There were even bullet fragments lodged in the railings of the bridge. Located on the main deck of the bridge, police found 2 bodies, one male and one female. A male body was also discovered between 2 park benches. All 3 were surrounded by pools of blood, bearing injuries consistent with gunshot wounds. Police also found Ryan's bike near the end of the deck. A camouflage military type of pack was found with a Canik 9mm semi-auto handgun partially sticking out. Next to the handgun was a small Taurus black revolver and an iPod. Police requested any videos or photos that may aid in the investigation be sent to them. There was a photo with a couple sitting on a park bench, and in the background, the shooter stood on the deck next to his bike, as some witnesses later described as standing by himself, staring off over the water. Ryan emptied the magazine in his handgun, firing 18 rounds. It was the revolver that he used to kill himself, a bullet to the head, as so many of our shooters do. The most cowardly act on top of such a hateful act of malice. Ryan also carried a second magazine for the handgun, yet he never managed to reload with it. John Stoffel was shot 7 times. His daughter Olivia was shot 3 times. Aaron Stoffel was shot 3 times, and Adam was shot once in the head. Nearly 30 minutes after the shooting, an officer mentioned that the shooter may likely be one of the people dead on the bridge. A critical incident stress debriefing, complete with counselors and a peer support team, was assembled to help dispatchers, paramedics, officers, and all other first responders. At 8:10 p.m., one of the deceased was being removed from the scene, wheeled away to be identified. and ultimately buried. The victim that was not a member of the Stoffel family was Adam. Adam spoke with Ryan for approximately 5 minutes before he was shot. Witnesses commented that the men were not arguing, rather just having a casual conversation. Ryan stayed in the park for about 45 minutes before shooting a single shot.
Adam certainly was talking with the shooter for a period of time before that.
A woman standing near the park immediately recognized Ryan as her ex-fiancé. At once, she collapsed to the ground, sobbing. The woman recognized her former lover's face as well as his tattoos. She asked to speak to police because she knew that this was the person that they were looking for. She knew that he was the shooter. We will call Ryan's girlfriend Hannah in an effort to protect her privacy. She didn't ask to become a part of the tragedy any more than the next person, yet she wasn't a victim at the shooting, and she was not involved in any other way than her report. It isn't fair that she suffers any further trauma or consequence from this horrific tragedy. As Ryan was being treated by the paramedics, he began to show signs of life while on the bridge, and his identity was ultimately confirmed by his driver's license and military ID. He was whisked away to the Theda Clark Regional Medical Center, where life-saving procedures were performed. He was pronounced dead shortly thereafter. Of note, Ryan's blood alcohol content, or BAC, was 0.241%. This is 3 times the legal driving limit. Yet, he had a negative drug screen. Investigators began to speak with Hannah, gathering much more intel about Ryan. The couple had been dating for a while and had plans of getting married. Despite their plans, however, the wedding was recently called off.
It was a relationship issue that he had. He and his fiancée had called off their wedding.
Hannah claims that Ryan was suffering from depression and was supposed to be taking medication. The couple had been discussing their relationship during the day of May 3rd, though Ryan had begun drinking at some point during the day. He tried to get Hannah into going to the Trestle Bridge to spend time together, but she already had dinner plans with her family. Hannah invited Ryan to come along with her. He declined. When Hannah returned, Ryan was long gone. She heard about the shooting at the bridge because her neighbor, a volunteer firefighter, told her about it. Hannah immediately raced into her bedroom, looking for something specific. She was stunned and horrified to see several of Ryan's firearms were missing. So was his bike, which was a burnt orange fat tire. There were 3 handguns missing, plus Ryan's cell phone was left at the house, which was very odd. Ryan never left his phone at home. As each factor began adding up, Hannah realized that Ryan was the shooter her neighbor described. Her gut screamed, "He is the shooter," and so she ran to the park. Ryan hadn't mentioned any bad feelings or suicidal ideology. Hannah didn't know what else to think. When she was called into the police station for further questioning, she immediately obliged.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
mass casualty incidents.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
mass casualty incidents.
Ryan and Hannah had a tumultuous relationship. They called off their wedding nearly 2 months before the intended date, mostly because of Ryan's excessive drinking. The couple met when they were both in the Air Force in 2009, and the pair were both stationed in Texas. They broke up, but eventually got back together in 2012. Allegedly, the last time the two saw each other was the day that Ryan was crying, claiming Hannah didn't love him anymore. When they were in the Air Force together, Ryan often made comments about wanting to shoot up a dining facility on base, but Ryan claimed that those feelings had since gone away, and Hannah didn't report it because she didn't think it would have done any good. In fact, she had been wanting to call off the relationship for some time, but was afraid of what he might do, believing Ryan to be a true sociopath. When Ryan and Hannah were in the Air Force together, he made comments about Hannah's sister, who was also interviewed, stating that the very first time she met Ryan was a very dynamic, joyful guy. After they moved to Wisconsin, his attitude changed drastically. Seemingly out of nowhere, Ryan started to drink heavily and was negative all the time. He was obsessed with guns, and one time his sister reported that they were camping when they started fighting, and Ryan pulled out a gun and pointed at his head, immediately turning and running into the woods. The incident was in the summer of 2014, and a short time later, his family found Ryan in the woods, though he was unharmed. Shaken, Ryan seemed to promise that he'd stop drinking, and he even agreed to have all guns removed from the home. Ryan successfully stayed sober for about 6 months. About a month before the shooting, he began to drink excessively again, though Hannah never thought Ryan would do anything like this. About 8 months before the incident, he had grown even more distant from family. Hannah explained that she was afraid to break up with Ryan because she didn't know what he would do, believing that he may harm himself, but never others. He was simply unwilling to get the help he so clearly needed. At one point, Ryan was prescribed Prozac, then Zoloft. However, he hadn't taken either in at least a few months. 33-year-old Jonathan Stoffel was married to his wife Erin for over 10 years. Employed with the Bolt Company as a journeyman carpenter, John was known to work other odd jobs, including landscaping and gardening. Born on November 11, 1981, in Darby, Wisconsin, John was extremely close with his family, and he loved his time outdoors more than anything. John was an avid fisherman, but also liked to hike and camp. A prayer ceremony was held in his honor on a Monday at the Calvary Bible Church in Neenah, Wisconsin. The church is attached to the school that the Stoffel children attended. John met the love of his life, Erin, in high school. They were each quite devoted to their father, which drew the couple together even closer. Though he was a year older and graduated from high school before her, John attended a Bible college in California, and they dated long distance. Once Erin graduated high school, she joined John in California. John was 20 years old, and Erin was 19 years old when they were married. Olivia was John and Erin's oldest, then Ezra, and then Selah. 11-year-old Olivia Stoffel was born on December 7, 2003. Olivia was a compassionate and tender-hearted young lady, a true artist. Olivia helped raise funds for the Fox Valley Jail Ministry by making and selling bracelets. Olivia was always willing to help her mom, serving as her right-hand man at home. Silly as she could be, Olivia loved being a big sister, taking her duties very, very seriously. Olivia loved to swim, but also loved drama. Adam Bentdahl was born on August 21, 1983, to Nancy J. Van Gompel and Marlo Bentdahl in Mikado, Minnesota. Adam was a huge personality that was full of life and always kind and gentle. He attended Grace Lutheran Christian Grade School, and he went on to graduate from Appleton West High School in 2002. In 2005, he received an associate's degree in general studies from University of Wisconsin, Fox Valley. Then, Adam transferred to University of Wisconsin in Oshkosh for about a year and a half. There was at least $354,000 used for the trail that is commonly used by nearly 1,000 people each day. The trail is open year-round, and the bridge spans the Little Lake Butte des Morts, a lake that is part of the Fox, Wisconsin waterway and connects to Fritz Park. The whole bridge falls under the city of Menasha jurisdiction. Approximately 17,000 people reside in Menasha, which is over 30 miles south of Green Bay. The bridge spans 1,600 square feet, making it the longest lighted pedestrian bridge in Wisconsin. In 2017, the trail was awarded a Wisconsin Great Places Award by the American Planning Association Wisconsin chapter. The building was constructed in 2005 and opened on August 27, 2006. The city, or town of Menasha, is just under 8 square miles, and the majority of the city falls in Winnebago County. Menasha was incorporated as a city in 1874.
It's morbid. It's really surreal. You never believe that it's impossible that this would happen, but it's pretty upsetting.
Ryan was born in Guadalajara, Mexico, but moved to Los Angeles, California with his parents when he was a teenager. Ryan describes his childhood as free from any type of abuse, including emotional, verbal, physical, or sexual abuse. While he wasn't exactly a loner, Ryan didn't maintain many friendships either. He mostly kept to himself. Ryan enjoyed target shooting, hunting, and watching sports. Later in life, Ryan lived with his on-again, off-again fiancée and her father in a small house on 8th Street.